welcome to Talk with Guy, and we have our guest, Tim McCarthy, and my co-host, William Cruz.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And he's the host of 20 TIMinutes.
Yep, that's correct.
And it is a podcast. You can find it on YouTube and...
You know, on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. You can get it pretty much anywhere there's podcasting.
Yeah. I started off my podcast audio only on Spotify and iTunes. I find iTunes is like way easier. Like because like the numbers, like as soon as I got greenlit for iTunes, my numbers boosted.
Yeah, because that's what everyone uses, and I feel like Apple just controls our lives anyway. They're already listening to our phones as it is, so they probably have this episode recorded on iTunes already.
I mean, iTunes, Apple Music, even though it's more expensive than Spotify, it is pretty convenient.
Yeah. I like Spotify, though, because you can make your own playlist and share them with friends. Not many people know that. You can make collaborative playlists, and I absolutely love that.
Also, you can do videos on Spotify.
Yeah, I just learned that, too.
Yeah. I believe, like, I put one of the episodes that we did in this studio, like the first season, like, on Spotify, and I was like, oh, this is way better. I should have done it with the other one.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, this is the second season. You have the second episode of the second season of this show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Were you born and raised in Whitman?
I wasn't. Born and raised in Quincy, moved down to Whitman in 2017. Been here ever since. I like it down here, home of the Toll House cookie.
Nice.
That's what brought me down.
Man, when they got rid of that sign,
Right?
I was like, really? They got it? Because I used to actually work at a store next to the sign, and I just drove by one day. It was gone. I was like, wow.
Yeah. I think they just put it back, right?
Yeah, because they had to clean it. I think the story goes like I think they legally have to keep it there, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of the lease agreement.
Yeah, and
With, I believe, Wendy's. I don't know if it's Wendy's or Walgreens, but one of them, it's like the lease agreement. They have to keep that sign there as a historical sign.
yeah, and they have to keep maintaining it as well. And so, like, if you look at it, it looks brand new.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had to clean it and then bring it back. But yeah, during one of the episodes I did with the historical lady, found out that the Toll House cookie, they have a store in Texas.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, they missed the the mark by a couple miles.
They should be delivering it to this. I love cookies. Like, we need that store back open.
Yeah, Nestle bought Toll House.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is right.
Yeah. So what got you into podcasting?
I was podcasting years ago in 2015 with my buddy Billy Cox. We had a podcast called Bill and Tim's Bogus Podcast, and it was just us kind of just talking about everything and anything, and it was awful, but we had a lot of fun. It was just like me and my buddy just talking about movies, TV, and just had a lot of fun with it. And I always wanted to do a podcast again, but I never knew what I wanted to do it on. I have bouts with depression and bipolar and anxiety, so I dealt with that with the suicide ideations. So I wanted to help other people, and I didn't know how. And I was like, I can do a podcast on this and be more open and vulnerable with people and talk about these things that are very awkward and very hard for people to talk about. It's not really cool to come out and be like, you know what, mental health's pretty cool. Like, you know what I mean? Not many people are looking to talk about it, and we all need to, because we all have mental health. Like, there's mental illnesses, but everyone has mental health.
Yeah. Like, for example, in my community, it's like mental health is not something that we tend to really pay attention to. Like, there's a lot of times when we have like for example, if I'm like, hey, Dad, I think I'm going through depression, and he's like, no, he just said, get back to work. But yeah, so it's kind of like this ideology is like, if you have mental health, then you go to a nut house. I don't think they call it nut house.
No, call it a nut house. I like that better.
Yeah. So a lot of people, it's like they don't really like we can go to life is a roller coaster. So sometimes when the lows hit like really low, then you can feel that. So it's like, well, what differentiates from like a really low or a diagnosed like you have that problem?
That's a good question. It's very tough to know the difference because, again, like we all have mental health issues at times. Like we can get depressed, we can get sad, but there's also that other end of like the highs of the roller coaster where we're like, oh, we're very upbeat and we're ready to take on the world. What's tough with me is being bipolar. You can have manic episodes where it seems like you're having a great time, but not really. So you can seem like you can take on the world. Like I'm going to ride this roller coaster without a seatbelt. It's just, you know what I mean? Like that's how it's going to be. But the best way to find out is if it keeps going on and keeps affecting your daily life is to go get professional help and go talk to somebody if you can, even if it's your primary care provider. Therapy's hard to get. It's a long road, but just talking to somebody and getting that first step is the best way to figure it out.
Yeah.
How do you feel about mental health today in respect to men specifically?
Oh, like what you were saying too a minute ago, like talking to your dad, and it's like, oh, just suck it up, you're just sad. There's that whole man up era, and it's like you have to man up and do this, and it's like, yeah, to a point, but you can still be emotional, you can still be vulnerable, you can still talk about your emotions, and it's like you can be with like a couple of guys and they can boost you up. It's like, oh man, we can definitely do this, and there's nothing wrong with that to have like those types of conversations. You can talk about sports, you can talk about women, men, and you can still talk about your feelings, and it's you need to find that safe space. But yeah, it is funny when it comes to men and mental health, and it's like that's the key word in mental health is men. It's like one of the words in it. It's a combo, and it's like it's just super interesting that's how it is. But I think the stigma is getting broken more and more with the conversations and people like you guys having a platform like this. So it's awesome.
The thing I found out is like as long as you don't use the keywords like depression or like bipolar. If I'm talking to my dad, I'm like, hey dad, I'm having a rough time and I just need to talk to you. He'll give me an ear. But if I'm like, I think I'm depressed, and he's like, hey, that's just sadness, and you just want to squeeze the bell out of work. But yeah, so it's like, and also like I have like a couple like friends that's like, whenever I'm feeling like down in a rut, I know like, I think our friends are like the best therapists.
Oh yeah,
cost effective.
Very cost effective. A good inner circle is what you need.
I don't know if it's personal, but right now you're currently like in a therapy.
Yeah, no, you can ask me all the personal questions that you want. I'm currently in therapy. Funny enough, I just had my therapy session right before this. That's why I was kind of running a little bit late. And it's good. I think everyone should at least try to get therapy. It's not easy, even if it's like once a year. I know I was listening to Howard Stern, and he was saying that he goes to therapy once a year. And I think that's kind of cool in a way because you can just unleash everything. Because you don't have... It's somebody that doesn't have a dog in the fight. They're just on the outside, and they're just listening. Like, they're not like someone like a friend that can give a biased opinion on something. Like, you give them everything that you want, and it's tough to open up at times because you're like, I don't want to be judged, but it's someone that doesn't judge you. That's like their job is. But it's funny because you play that game with a therapist, and you're like, should I tell them how crazy I feel right now, or should I hold back? And that's always the struggle. But once you build that relationship, like I've had a therapist that ended up having to leave and go to a practice, which crushed me. Like I had a therapist that I was with for like a year and a half that helped me get through my depression, and she left. And then I got a new therapist that didn't work out. And it was very hard to say that therapist doesn't work. And when I called in, it was funny enough, I called in, I was like, I need a new therapist. They're like, did you talk to your therapist about it? I'm like, did I talk to my therapist about my therapist?
It's like
I was like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna fire you.
Yeah, I was like, this is tough. I'm just the patient here. Yeah. So funny enough, my therapist now is actually the father of my original therapist that ended up leaving. So like I got like the same bloodline of therapists, and it's like I feel like a video game. I got to the next level of like therapy, and it's great.
So like throughout, like for example, like for me, I can somewhat relate to like going through like ruts because I have like sessions before, and I can understand like the times where in the first 3 sessions are the worst because you're trying to gauge. Because like at first you're like I'm normal. Like for example, I have a new physician, and she is wonderful. And she's like I was talking to her, and then I was like, everybody goes there. It's like no, because I was saying like, hey, sometimes I just don't feel like waking up, and I'm cool with like laying and sleeping all day, and just completely turning off the world and just be like, I just want to like morph into my bed. And she's like, that is not normal. And I was like, everybody goes to like rough days. And it was like, no, that's not a rough day. You sound like you've been having a rough month. and so she's like, you probably need to talk to people. I was like, nah, I'm good. And then I had like a session, and I kind of ghost because I was like, well, I was busy, but I was like, it's kind of rough to like open up to someone that is completely like strange and new, and the whole idea of like being open to someone you don't know, it is rough, and also like, yeah, and I don't know like what everybody's thought on this is. It's like in therapy at times, like if you have a couple bad sessions, like you probably think like, oh, this is not gonna work out for me.
Right.
So like, what do you say to someone that's in those kind of rut?
First off, with what you said about like being in a rut, like taken down, those are mental health days, and you should take those. When it goes on for like weeks on ends, that's probably when you should probably seek help. And she probably wasn't wrong. There's been times I laid in bed for like a week, like not showering and just being super depressed and not wanting to get up. So yeah, definitely take those mental health days, even if it's work. I think the laws in Massachusetts, they can't really mess with you with mental health issues. So if you call in for a mental health day for sick day, it's the same thing. Like I'm a huge proponent of, you break your arm, that's one thing too. It's like if you break your brain and it's not working, you need to take a day off. But yeah, to say to somebody that's in that situation is, you definitely got to give them a chance first, like I did. And if it doesn't work out, don't be afraid to say something to like the practice that's there, like whoever's boss it is, and just hang in there for the most part and give them a chance. I gave my therapist 3 chances because it's a baseball analogy, so like she was out. But yeah, I just say just definitely like stick it out, give them a chance. Everyone's human. They went through college, they worked their butt off just to get that job, so you got to give them some sort of a chance. But don't be upset if it doesn't work out, because you got to keep fighting.
Yeah,
I think one of the stigmas against people calling in for mental health to their boss, looking for a mental health day, is that if you have an injury, they can see it.
Yeah.
But if you're having an anxiety attack or whatever it may be, it may be harder for your boss to be persuaded on whether or not that's actually true.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not exactly sure if there should be a higher level of trust between you and your boss, or more legal protections on that. But I kind of see why there would be a stigma against people calling in for that.
100%. A lot of people get very nervous about it. This is a big toss-up for people that if they should tell their boss if they have issues, to give them a heads up. But sometimes there's a stigma behind that. I did it, but in my head I'm like, does that curse me for a promotion down the line? Does that curse me for like being like, oh, Tim can't handle this? But I think for the most part I did that because I do need mental health days, and work does get tough for people. And you can get like notes too, like if like you have a physician or something, you can just tell them like, hey, I'm not feeling too good and I had to call out of work. They can let you know and probably write you a note, which you can use, and then your work will probably be like, okay, I'm not gonna pursue this at all. But yeah, definitely don't be afraid to do that. If you're doing it and abusing it is one thing, but if you're doing it and you really need it, then it is a good thing. But yeah, the stigma around that is real.
and I'd imagine in your line of work, you probably get some gritty calls.
Yeah, I definitely get some calls. As a 911 dispatcher for the state, I've heard it all. I've been there for like 9 years, coming up on 10. So that's a job that you need a couple of mental health days throughout the year to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I've seen the show, and I'm like, amazing show, by the way. But I seen the Now on Dispatcher show, and I'm like, oh, oof. Like if I was behind that call, I have no idea. Like it was like if I have to hear about someone is committing a robbery, my house getting broken into, I'm hiding under the bed, I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. But then you get funny calls sometimes. Like I've had calls from like children asking for like math questions and stuff. And then I've had like very smart people that I had one woman who was in a domestic relationship, and it was domestic violence, and she pretended she was on the phone with the pizza company. And she was like, no, my address is this. My address is this. Can you deliver that? And I was like, okay. That clicked in my head that she needs help because I can hear a guy in the background. So it's like a lot of heads up plays, and that woman was super smart to do something like that.
Yeah, that's out of the box thinking.
Yeah, that was really good, and yeah, we got her help and everything. So that was a really, like, I wouldn't say a fun call, but that was just a really cool way of getting help.
Yeah. What was the? If you don't mind me asking, what was the order? Like, can I have?
Oh yeah, right. I need a large cheese ASAP.
that was.
Oh no, they didn't say that. They were just saying the delivery pod.
Oh,
that's funny.
Oh man, that's actually really crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, the math questions don't you get like the parents get penalized for wasting time. Or,
no, not really, but we kind of, it's like the benefit of the doubt because it is a kid, they don't know better, so hopefully the parent is like teaching them the rights and wrongs of calling 911.
Oh yeah, I feel like at some point every kid has attempted the 911 call. It's like, because I remember there's a story about a kid I know who was like in elementary school. They were talking about if you press 9 and 1 a lot of time. I think I think the trick was like helicopters come to your house, and so he did that, and a bunch of cops come over his house, and he was like, "Wow, that's crazy."
Yeah.
But have you ever got one of those calls like that, or just like I don't know if you're allowed to talk about.
Well, no, I can talk. I just know like personal things about like the callers and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's a real job. You deal with a lot of real things.
Have you ever had a call where it made you like second, rethink?
Actually, no. I like chaos. I like being on my toes. I have ADHD, so I like doing 20 things at once, like working a radio and working a call. But actually, no. I never doubted the job because I feel like I was made for it. And I'm pretty good at it. I'm not very positive about myself. I'm very usually self-deprecating, but no, I'm very good at my job, and I like doing it.
Did you think that that's what you were going to do, like out of high school?
Oh no, I didn't know what I was going to do for my whole life. It kind of just not fell on my lap, but I saw it randomly, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go for that. And I had no experience beforehand, and we were like the bottom of the barrel getting picked out of like the group. Like everyone before us who had a limited experience didn't pan out, so they called us up, and me and a couple people that started at the same time are still there today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim, so for your podcast, what made you decide on 20 minutes of for a typical podcast?
Yeah, that's a great question too, and I feel like I confuse a lot of people with that, especially when I do interviews. So I decided to do 20 minutes because it's kind of like a gag of again, I don't make fun of mental illnesses. I only make fun of myself in that way. So with having ADHD, I can only talk to myself for so long. So I wanted to do it 20 minutes to keep it easy for me. So 20 Tim minutes. I had different ideas for I was going to do Timmy 20 minutes because it kind of sounds like took me 20 minutes. When my buddy Duffy, he came up with the idea of the name, and I was like, that fits perfectly. So that's kind of like my moniker now. So I'll have interviews with guests, and they're like, oh, is this interview 20 minutes? I'm like, no, it's kind of a gag now. That's just my name, so they get a kick out of that too. But at this point, I'm so late in the game that I think if I rebranded or changed, it would kind of lose its theme and everything.
For your podcast, I tried to do solo podcasting. I hated every single one of them.
Yeah.
I think I need the energy of other people around me to more a good show.
Yeah.
I can't, because when you edit, the way you sound, I don't know if it's just natural self-hate. It's just when you hear yourself through editing, it doesn't always sound like the way you think you sound.
Right.
For example, for me, I can't really say how I sound in my head, but when I hear myself, I feel like I'm listening to a 9-year-old speak.
Oh yeah.
And I'm oh, this is so cringe.
Yeah. That's how I feel in my body all the time. I feel like I'm not my age all the time. I'm short, and I'm I feel like I'm 17 still. I go into like a liquor store, and I give my ID already. They're like, yeah, we know you're of age. I'm like, oh man, I was like, this is not good.
I mean, even also listening to yourself in a video, it's like every single time you hear, it's like, oh, that sounds terrible. I mean, you get used to it, but it's like it takes a while to get over that.
It definitely does, and like listening to the ums and all that, and just like trying to take those out. But funny enough is I don't listen to my episodes. I edit them real quick, and like I know like where it lines up. But that's how bad and cringe I am with it. Like I can't even listen to myself. I'll watch this because I want to show my mom, but for the most part, I don't like listening to myself. And I think it's kind of funny too when people bring up certain things I said, and I'm like, I said that? I don't remember that at all. So yeah, I like it. But the editing is probably the worst part. I don't like it. I don't know. You guys must love it.
That's why I stay off camera.
Right. We need people like you.
Yeah. Honestly, if it was me editing it, like the episodes would take years to come out because I was like, oh, that's how. Wait, did I really say that? Oh, I need to crop this out. Yeah. Like I'm very particular. Like you can even ask Ryan. Like when it comes to the show, it's like it'll be a great conversation. It's like, hey, there's just like a 20-minute mark. Like, can you just erase that one word? Yeah. And so yeah, I feel like I'm a pain in his butt sometimes, but yeah,
we get it done.
Yeah, we get it done. I mean, we're in our second season, so
that's awesome.
So yeah, so like, there's no more TV with the swirly fire aesthetic. Trying to like experiment to see like a natural vibe that would be good for, you know. But yeah, so Bill and Tim Bogus.
Yeah.
When you were doing that, was because I know like in the early days of podcasting, that's probably like those era. Was podcasting easier than it is because it is very saturated right now?
Yeah, very saturated. We was doing it in like 2015, so not a lot of people were doing it, but we were just recording. I don't think we would listen to it either, and we would just put it on there. We got like listeners because of like our friends and stuff, but we weren't like making any like huge splashes or anything. But no, it's
Joe Rogan numbers?
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, it's very saturated, but I think with my show, it does stick out a little bit because it is like a comedy mental health. So people, like the name alone, people are like confused about. So I think that, and then my logo is kind of ridiculous looking too. Yeah. So that kind of brings in it. But no, I feel like my show stands out a little bit because it's quick and it's not like an hour, 2 hour show. I always tell people it's like you can listen to it like on your ride to CVS or listen to it on the bathroom. Like you can do it. Like it's very easy. But yeah, having like a mental health and comedy to keep it light, like I say, break the stigma by cracking a smile. Because I want people to like be in on like the joke as like what that is. Because I listen to a lot of like professionals and they use big words and I'm like, I can't pay attention to this or I can't understand it. So being like a regular guy with mental health and mental illnesses, it's a lot easier. People can relate to it because I am just like a normal guy. I'm like, no, I'm no one special, but it's easier for people to like figure it out when listening to someone that is going through it. Because I talk about my therapy sessions, I talk about how I'm feeling, so people really get the real me in it.
I also find it a little bit crazy how podcasting became as big as it is. It's now normal for people to Bluetooth connect their phone and listen to a podcast on their 30-minute or 1 hour drive to work or college or whatnot.
Yeah, I think COVID really was a big proponent of people having podcasts because people were just getting bored and losing their minds. So they were like trying to communicate with anybody. So they were just putting a mic in and just talking. So I think it's really cool. I think everyone should be doing podcasts. You never know if it's gonna like blow up, and it's cool to like listen to your friends or listen to strangers that are talking about topics because it's like a TV show. Like no one's really competing. It's like if you don't like politics, change it, and if you want to talk about movies, like change it. Like that's all you got to really do.
I actually started during COVID because
Same.
I was completely bored out of my mind, and there's this app called Stereo. I think it was called Stereo. Yeah, it was called Stereo.
Yeah, Stereo.
And I was like, okay. It was like during this time where I forgot what the other app is. But it's like you can have like speakers and then people just listen to the speakers speak.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another app that's similar that's more popular, but I don't have an iPhone, so.
All right.
Yeah. And I don't know if it came out on Android. but I start doing a lot of stereo sessions, just listening in. And then one day I was like, let me do like a conversation with someone. I did one, and that one is never coming out because he's a therapist, and we had like a 5-hour long session where we were talking, and he opened up about his life. I feel like I know the guy, even though we never met, like since he was a teenager, and he knew me from birth. Like that's how much we opened up on that. And it was like 5 hours long. And on my stereo, I put down private immediately afterwards because I was like, there's some things that was too deep, and I'm like, I'm not going to unearth that ever.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. Unless he listens to this, and it's like one of your, and it's like, I'll show you. But honestly, that is like how it started. And then my second one is the second one, which is like the first one of like official episode I did of the origin of this show, was with a woman who lives in Missouri. I think I said it right. Yeah, he had to, because like I keep saying misery, and when he came over, he was listening into me editing that podcast, and he was like, "Hey, Keith, let's just sit down real quick and repeat after me."
I'm going to misery.
Yeah,
It's called misery because they're always 50th place in everything.
Oh,
Slam dunk.
But yeah, so she was she's a health insurance saleswoman, and during that time I was she was a life insurance, I was a health insurance.
All right.
So, and I was like, okay, let me use her to like get to know a little bit more about the field I just started in. And then she was breaking down how life insurance is different from health insurance, and then just like, okay, I got some of the things I got already from my training, but then the conversation flipped like that, and she opened up about like how she wants to leave her man because he's like honestly doesn't do anything, and no matter how many times she explained to him that like I don't want you anymore, get out of the house, and I want you to leave, and he doesn't. And so he was like, I think the only way I have to kick him out is by cheating on him. And it's like, what do you think? And I'm like, that is a heavy question to ask.
It's very heavy.
Because I was like, geez, I just turned 20. I'm like, I'm not going to give you a hall pass.
Yeah, right?
To like, I think it's fine for you to cheat. Because like, I am in a relationship. And I'm like, if my girlfriend, even if like, things are rough, and if my girlfriend cheats, I was like, that's a special hurt that I don't really feel. So I was like, and so she was like, so what do you think? And then I was like, oh, that's crazy. I don't know what it is that I can say. I just don't think it's the right thing. I guess you just need to. I'm not telling you what to do, but just there's alternative ways. I don't know. Foreclose them. I don't.
Yeah, right. I think what you guys have been talking about with opening up and you know to therapy of getting like men to open up, because last night I actually saw your newest episode that you're doing your podcast, and what really caught my attention is what you were mentioning about how in the Black community they're setting up barbershops.
Oh, the Confess Project. Yeah.
Yeah, to that also act as therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so ingenious.
Yeah, right?
It kind of like makes it a bit more incognito. You also get a normal service that you normally get. It makes it more approachable. And I think the approachability is what's pretty good.
Yeah, like the percentage of the Black community with suicide rates is like very high. I forget the number, but it definitely surprised me. I was like, that's not good. But yeah, something like the barbershop where I know like the camaraderie in that is like very well, and they helping barbers become like mental health advocates is like that's cool in its own, because it's like they have a job, a paying job. Now they have to take classes to be an advocate. Like that just shows their character. and just like them wanting to help people. I think that's really cool. I'm actually talking to them right now, and hopefully I'm going to get the gentleman, that Lorenzo, who runs it, and get him on the podcast and chat with him about it, because I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and also the barbershop is a natural therapy. When I go to a barber, like before I found my new barber, like when I used to live in Mattapan, we would just, when I get my haircut, it is like a convo between me and the barber, which is like the best experience. Not when you have the barber that dances and just talk to his friend.
Right.
And do that.
See, I don't know anything about barbers right now.
It took me a second.
I haven't been one in quite some time, so I'm a fan of them. I'm glad they're helping people out, but yeah, I've done one in a while.
But yeah, my current barber, I forgot, it's in Weymouth, I think. Abington or Weymouth. But my current barber, she is honestly the best. Because like she's very like, she's not rough with your hair. I'm sorry. that comment. But yeah, she talks with you, and like honestly, it doesn't feel like I was getting a haircut. I sat down, and when I got out, there was a lot of hair that was missing. But yeah, so it was kind of like one of those things. It was like I absolutely love my new barber.
Yeah.
And it was like the first woman barber I've ever had too. So that was crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because like you have friends and then you have like acquaintances that you can be comfortable with that you see every so often. So it is good. It's just like meeting people, like even talking to you guys. Like I feel great right now. So it is like cool meeting new people and being able to talk about things like that.
Yeah, I've been kind of having this thing with like as a podcaster, it's like finding new guests.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Yeah, that is like, I feel like that's kind of a skill on its own.
Yeah, I go down rabbit holes to find people. I've talked to a lot of different people. I've talked to like NFL players. I've talked to Chris Herron, who used to play for the Boston Celtics, who does the Herron Project. He's a former addict that helps out other people. I've had an adult film star on there that talked about her community and like what she deals with. I just had on Dane Cook. I don't know if you know him, stand-up comic. He's been around for a bit.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, I just had him on, but like you really have to put in the work to find those people. It's like I'm on Twitter typing in keywords like mental health and just like finding advocates. Like Dane Cook, I was messaging for like a year plus, and he finally got back to me, and we recorded yesterday. So hopefully that comes out in like a week or so. But yeah, finding guests, it's cool because in a way like when I find them and I tell them what we're going to talk about, they're very eager to get into it because they never get to talk about it. Like I talked to these two people. It's John's Crazy Socks. It's a sock company owned by a gentleman with Down syndrome, and it was him and his dad, and we had such a great time. And John was just like a delight. He like almost made me cry because he had like the best motivational like words at the end of it. I loved it, and the dad commended me. I don't get many emails after the interview. He emailed me, and this guy they've been on like. They did like a Microsoft commercial. They were on the Today Show, and he goes, "This is one of my favorite podcasts because no one ever asks about the behind-the-scenes mental health-wise." He's like, talking about my son, yes, that's awesome, like what he does, but he's like, what I really liked is like everything behind the scenes wasn't that easy, and the easiest thing in my life was raising a son with Down syndrome. And I thought that was really cool of him to just reach out and tell me that because you don't know what people are going through. It just goes to show like they're a successful like $1 million sock company, and John's awesome, but he's like, yeah, getting there and like dealing with like his personal problems and like his brother and like everything he talked about. So that's a really good interview to check out if anyone looks for the podcast. Is John's Crazy Socks, and they got good socks. They got really good, and that's not even an ad. They just really have good socks.
Yeah,
yeah, they were really cool. Yeah, right. They were awesome.
What is like by far like the like, cause like I know like we tend to say that we don't have like a favorite episode.
Right.
But like, what is like one of the episodes like? I can't believe I did that.
Oh, that would be episode 25. I called it Endgame, and it was the anniversary of my my attempt at wanting to commit suicide, and I was very open about it. And I ended up crying on the episode. It's very raw, and like to this day, I still can't believe I did it because people will go to that because it kind of sticks out. I wrote like Endgame Special Edition because it was like a special like episode of mine, and it was just a story to tell very easily that I didn't have to tell many times. So people ask me about it, I'm like, go listen to episode 25. And you don't have to hear me talk about it.
Yeah.
But no, it was that's probably the one that that really stuck out for me and like a lot of people. I think that's like one of my most like viewed and listened to episodes, which is really cool from other people.
So when you started your podcast, I noticed that you started uploading about a year or so ago, and you said you started podcasting before that. When you kind of like started uploading on YouTube, are you kind of what was your expectation on like growth and views and?
It was just like one of the things that, as someone pointed out to me, because I'm very animated and like I talk with my hands and people call me like a cartoon character. So it was like I should do that, and like my studio has like a bunch of stuff in the background that looks like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. But no, it definitely gave me a little bit of growth because they get to see like who's talking instead of listening. And I didn't know people like watch things on YouTube anymore. Like I'm 36, so like my YouTube is like funny videos for 10 seconds and that's it. People like watch like people play video games for hours. I didn't know that was a thing.
Really?
So yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Like I was just like I would rather play the video game than watch it.
What's we found about Twitch?
I know. That's then I got led to Twitch, and I was like, I was like, this is like people are getting paid. I was like, I should have done this.
Yeah.
But no, the YouTube numbers were getting a little bit better. They're not like what I would want them at, but someone was like, yeah, you need to start doing those, and they're a lot of fun, and they're a lot easy editing. I feel like because I take the audio from that. It's like I have a little easy setup. Like I plug my mic into my iPhone. iPhone cameras are like a different animal when it comes to recording, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun recording the videos, and especially with the interviews and stuff, because I think the interviews really show like what the guests like. You get to see what the guest looks like, you get to see what they talk about, and then I can put up like little information and stills that people can see. But no, it's a lot of fun doing the videos.
Yeah. I also find what's crazy about YouTube is we're kind of like you mentioned about watch time. We're kind of at the point now where people are watching like 2-3 hour documentaries on YouTube, and I just find it fascinating because I was born in the late '90s, so I got to grow up through TV and see internet become the main medium.
Yeah.
And now we spend most of our time on like YouTube or Netflix.
Yep.
Than watching TV or movies.
Yeah. It's and we're all looking like this at all days, and
It can't be good for our neck.
no, my neck always hurts because of that. I'm going to chiropractor down the street like all the time. But yeah, no, the YouTube is like a different beast. It is interesting at all.
You can watch whatever you want to.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously, and it's
even the fringe stuff that no one will ever dare to watch.
Yeah.
You can find it.
I
Let your YouTube run, not like with the autoplay, overnight. You'll wake up to some fascinating videos.
Oh yeah, you go to bed to some weird stuff. You'll wake up to some weird stuff.
And do you feel like on your platform, like for example, my platform, I try to learn about other people. And
Yeah.
as of recently, I've been getting a feedback of like has to like go back and forth because earlier episodes were very one-sided. Do you feel like sometimes like you have to tote the line of like not to spill out much of your own belief because like today's climate?
Right. Actually, I talk about that a lot in my episodes. I'll bring up certain topics that I don't bring my opinion in. I'll just talk about it. But then there's sometimes I'll have to. I just can't hold it in. I don't know what certain topics those would be, but sometimes I just kind of spill it because I don't listen to my own podcast. So a lot of my thoughts I have, they just come out. But yeah, no, I usually just kind of keep it even keeled because I want people from all walks of life to listen to. I talk to all walks of life that I might not agree with what they have, or I might not do the same practices that they do, but it's cool. I'm a big culture guy. I love seeing other people's cultures, and like it's fascinating to me. I think it's so cool. Like one of the biggest things I want to do is I want to travel to Japan. Like that's like on my bucket list because like the culture out there is just so fascinating. I just love sushi too, and I would just rather have like real good sushi.
Sushi's good.
It's really good, and Tatami in Bridgewater is really good. Shout out to them.
I found out California rolls was not real Japanese dish,
Yeah, I think that's like
and I was like, that's crazy.
yeah, it's like the American version of like
Yeah.
sushi. Yeah.
Throughout your entire life, what has been like probably like one of the highs that you felt like because through your podcast, it definitely, like from listening to a couple of them, it definitely gets back, because I can relate to some things of it.
Yeah.
It you feel like gets back to community, like, which is, I think, that what you hope to accomplish with it, which you do. What is that one of the highs that you've like throughout, not the podcast or jobs or your career? Yeah.
I think one of the highs I had was through the podcast. Once I started doing the podcast, I feel like 5 episodes in, I had a few people reach out and said that I inspired them to go get therapy, or I inspired them to like go seek help, and it was just really cool. That was like a really good feeling, because I just wanted to help at least one person doing the podcast, and I accomplished that like 5 episodes in. And it wasn't like a pat on the back. It was like very like euphoric in a way, because like I got to like reach out to somebody, and they got to relate, and they got to go get help, because like who knows what would have happened. And it's like I might not change somebody's life per se, but it's like I gave them that little boost, or like that kick in the butt to just go and get it. So it was really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all want, is to have some sort of impact.
Yeah, exactly. We all deserve to be happy. We just got to make other people happy too, you know?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Well, I guess I could ask, do you believe that mental health today is taken a lot more seriously compared to 20 years ago?
Oh my God, yeah.
What would be the cause of that?
That's a great question. I think the cause of it is just like how much bad has been happening. It's like suicides happen or self-harm happen. It's like why? Everyone's asking why and why. And I think other people on the other end were like, well, this is why. And you need to like try to find out like what's going on. And I think people are just getting sick of it. Like the whole man up era. It's like people are like, I can't do this anymore. Like this is too exhausting. And people are just losing loved ones left and right, and it's like it's time to make a change. And someone like the Plymouth County Suicide Prevention, who I do volunteer work, and they do such a great job of like going and helping people and talking to people and opening up that. So people like that, like there's the NAMI and like all these big corporations, but like these little community ones, I think are really helping, because they can actually go and like talk to people instead of like you calling up a number and talking to somebody. Like do you guys know the National Suicide Hotline number? Do you know it offhand? Probably not, right?
The Logic song popped up in my head.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't know it. So they just started a new thing, and I think it's going to be implemented in Massachusetts like any day now. It's 988. So that's the new number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So you don't have to remember a long number. You just hit 988 and you get directly sent to somebody. So I think stuff like that is like really helpful and powerful for people to go get help, and I love that.
Do you believe that the cause is essentially placed on a radically changing social environment that could be leading people to hurt themselves or to harm others?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I think it's definitely mental illness that's not being treated too. Is a lot of people out there aren't getting the help because they can't afford it. They don't have insurance. They don't have a lot of things. So I think a lot of people that end up doing bad things are people that don't get the right help, and it's unfortunate because somebody can make or break something. Like a therapist, like out there, probably change someone's like look on life and like really help them out. But yeah, that's I think that's a big thing. Is just like the lack of help and funds and what people can get for help, because something untreated, it's like you don't treat like a wound on your arm, that arm's gonna get really bad and probably have to cut it off. And it's like if you don't treat your brain, it's like you don't know what someone is capable of.
Thank you everybody for watching Talk with Key with Tim McCarthy. 20-10
Yep.
The host of 20-10, and myself, William, and Tim wish you a wonderful day, and see you next time.